Thank you guys for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Our whole mission as a company is to try to help solve the affordable housing shortage, specifically for those workforce employees that are making, between $30,000 to $55,000 a year. So those people in our communities that work really hard, they work full time to make this city somewhere cool for all of us to live, but they unfortunately can't afford to live anywhere near that area. So we're really trying to kind of do well and do good, make a lot of money for our investors, and also, help solve this affordable housing shortage. So what PadSplit is the marketplace that you would list your property on. Like I said, we're trying to find a solution for, this national problem, and when you're looking at a problem this big, to be able to solve it, you really have to make it sweet for both sides. So we really had to kind of get creative and find out a way to incentivize those who are closest to the problems, which is the landlords of these properties. So finding ways to make them cash flow while also doing a good deed for their community as well. So a little bit about PadSplit. We were founded in 2018 in Atlanta, Georgia. Since then we've grown quite a bit. So this is our map of our active markets right now. For Florida, which is where you guys probably care most about, we've got Tampa, Jacksonville, Orlando, and we just opened Miami actually a couple weeks ago. So very exciting stuff. And we just grew to about 500 units here in Tampa. So growing pretty quickly, very exciting stuff. So like I said, our main mission here is to focus on those who can't afford housing and don't have other options. Right now, there's a couple concerning stats, but I think sometimes when people hear, low income or things like that, they think immediately of Section 8 housing or government housing, things along those lines. They think of, less than $32,000 a year, but it's really less than $55,000 a year is really the threshold of where you can afford today's studio apartment. And that's actually a third of our workforce. That's about 50 million Americans that have no options for housing, that are not, stretching them completely thin. On top of that, there's a lot of barriers to entry with accessing housing. So, you have to have a good credit score, you have to make 3 times the monthly rent, you have to have that ready to hand over at move-in, and then utilities and buying furniture. So there's just a lot of things that come with, getting your own place these days, and it's really out of reach. So we're trying to kind of knock down some of those barriers to entry and make it more accessible for everybody in our community. So a little bit about the average member. This is for single working adults only, so there's no couples, no kids, no overnight guests allowed. As of right now, things can change, we'll see. But the average member is about 35 to 40 years old. Like I said, making somewhere between $30,000 to $55,000 a year. So lots of, grocery store employees, casino employees, teachers, bus drivers, travel nurses. There's a lot of different pools of people that just kind of need it for different flexibility reasons. One important stat here that I think is really cool is that a lot of members on average save about, $300 to $400 a month. And one of the things that we also do is work with them on boosting their credit score as well. So what's really nice is that some members, it's kind of nice to lose them someday, because a lot of members have gone off and, they saved enough, they've built up their credit score, they've bought their own house after moving out of a PadSplit, or we've had some of them go on and buy their own PadSplits and now they're a real estate investor. So just a really cool full circle moment, and that's, that's kind of the mission that drives everything we do. So how it works for them is they will apply to become a PadSplit member. We'll do a background check on them and employment verification, so they have to be working and earning a paycheck to live in a PadSplit. We'll also check their credit score, but we don't use that as a reason to confirm or deny them. What we do is we take their credit score and their income and we set an approval amount for them. And once we've set that amount, that weekly rate that they can, that's their budget, they can't see or book anything above that. So it's kind of one of those things we do really early on to set expectations. And I'll go into, our payment structure later on, but once you set that weekly rate as the host, that's their one bill. So that includes their utilities, internet, and the use of a washer and dryer. So they kind of have everything all wrapped up in one. And then on PadSplit's end of things, being very mission focused, we provide access to free telemedicine services for them, re-employment services. So if they lose their job while they're living in your PadSplit, we'll help them find another one. And like I said, we report to all major credit bureaus bi-weekly, so they're able to boost their credit score as well. On the long-term commitment front, this is one thing that is probably the biggest plus for the members is the low commitment. That being said, for members in Florida, they do have to sign a separate kind of agreement saying that they will stay for 6 months plus 1 day. So that gets you out of that short-term hotel housing bubble. And from there, they'll renew week by week. They usually set it up with their paychecks. But on average, the average length of stay is about 8 to 10 months at a time. So it does end up being a longer term thing. And you know, if the property is run well, they'll stay there for a while. I've got some older PadSplits that kind of started at this Tampa market. They're run really well, and those members have been there for years. And things are running really smoothly. So it definitely goes a long way for them. Now, on the investor side of things, and this is more where you guys come in here. So I'm sure that your clients have been talking about this a lot. There's a lot of strategies that are not really cutting it right now. For long-term rentals, you know, it's tough to get those margins. Most people are not cash flowing, or if they are, making, you know, a couple $100 in cash flow. You know, inventory has been higher, Airbnbs are getting shut down. So there's just a lot of options that are kind of falling away right now. And this is kind of where we shine in those moments. So, you know, like I said, our goal is to find cash flow for those investors. So we really kind of capitalize on these times right now where there's not a lot of other exit strategies because, you know, for example, Airbnb being around, it's a nice thing to have. It's a luxury thing. It's great if people can go on vacation, but affordable housing for our workforce is a necessary thing for these cities. So in terms of longevity, like, you know, we're going to be around for a long time. There's no way around it. So how the PadSplit model works, this is probably the most common conversion that we see. You would typically start with a single family home. In this case, this is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath that was renting out for around $2,000 a month. We advise that he go in and convert the living room, the dining room, and split that large 4th bedroom into 2. So we really, our bread and butter is really capitalizing on that underutilized square footage in the house, which you don't need in a model like this, where, you know, this is really just a room to rent and rest your head while you're working. So on this now, we rented out each of these rooms for around $195. This host was able to boost his total rental income, you know, almost 3 times on there, just by kind of renting it out by the room and being a little smarter on the square footage. A couple of things I will mention on the layout of the homes. So, you know, when you guys are starting to get your gears turning of what you're looking for, we have a maximum ratio of 4 bedrooms to 1 bath. So you want to be looking for something that already has 2 bathrooms in it. And we typically don't list anything below 5 bedrooms total. So you want to be starting with at least, you know, a 3 or 4 bedroom to start that has lots of common area space with windows to work with. All right, and so how it looks for the host, so how your investors can put on a host, or you yourselves. I know that some of you guys are investors as well, so how it works is you guys will create a profile. You would typically meet with me, and we would kind of go through, you know, this general presentation I give now, and then we do a numbers and strategy meeting where we really look at your long-term goals, what your portfolio is right now, what your current strategy is, and how PadSplit can fit into that to help you kind of hit those larger wealth goals. From there, I'll help you guys, you know, connect you to anybody that you need. This is where I would connect them to you guys and be like, I have a great agent that knows exactly what they're looking for in a PadSplit. Here they are. So I can connect you to anybody that you need, you know, help you kind of plan the layout of the home, how we're going to make it into a PadSplit. I'll pop in throughout renovations to just kind of check in, make sure things are going smoothly. And then once you guys are ready to go, we'll kind of provide any onboarding or training that you need as the host. We'll help you with your listing, and then we'll get it up and running. And from there, what PadSplit is doing for you guys. So once your property is ready to go, we will take care of all of the marketing. So we're constantly marketing to new members to get them to apply and just be ready to book. We're marketing your listing on our site and also about 60 others as well. Also like the Google's, if your phone hears you talking and then it shows you ads, a bunch of that stuff. We take care of all of the background checks, member screening, and any of the management that comes along with that. So I know, some people when they hear like this rent by the room model, they think it must be a nightmare in there. It's really not, and we take care of all of the little, Johnny eat my peanut butter and Tina haunts the bathroom every morning. We take all of those calls so you guys don't have to deal with that. We also take care of all the collections and individual membership agreements, so you guys don't have to keep track of, who's been where, how long, how much their room is. We'll collect all the rent for you guys on a weekly basis, and we'll keep all track of it on your dashboard online, so you can see how much we're collecting for you, and then we pay you guys out by the month. So we'll take care of that. Also on that note as well, PadSplit is your one leasee for the year. So we sign a lease with you for the year or for however long you want to list with us, and then we handle all of the individual agreements. And then, like I said, the onboarding consultation. All right, so I talked earlier about our member payment strategy. So we work really hard to keep this very tight. We have over 97% collections rate, and we are looking to hold that strong. So members can only hold a balance of about $300, which is usually around a week or a week and a half of rent. So really early on if your member is not going to pay for that week. We will then kind of reach out and start the conversation. It's kind of like a little easy way, hard way conversation. We try to really keep in mind our mission and the position that a lot of these folks are in, and try to work with them. So the first step is always, is something going on? Is there, a way around this that we can kind of get creative and figure out a solution with the host? And if not, then we kind of explain, the benefits of just nicely leaving. But yeah, in the case that they hit that $300 budget, you would know very quickly. The benefit to this is that it's not like, in a long-term rental when you have the whole house not paying, you're completely out of luck. In this case, if one person's not paying, you're still collecting rent on the other six rooms in the house. So it's a much easier goal to take. I skipped on my zones. I wanted to mention at Pinellas County. So just to kind of I think sometimes people, think further in the future. They get scared about Airbnb back in the day. It's kind of similar to this new exciting model or strategy that you could use. And I touched a little bit on kind of how it's different, but just kind of looking at Pinellas County just switched their zoning regulations to be more in favor of rent by the room housing, because they're realizing that there really is no space to put all these people that are coming here. And we've got a massive workforce that just keeps getting bigger, and the problem is getting bigger. So if they don't kind of switch those regulations around rent by the room housing, things are going to start to get really bad. So it's really comforting, I guess, from an investment standpoint or a risk standpoint, to know that these counties are starting to look in that direction of being in favor of this model. So just to kind of go through the ideal property and what it would kind of look like from a number standpoint on an annual basis. So if you took the same house here, and this is the same one we're going to use for the breakdown. This host here bought this property for around $250,000. They had to put in around $50,000 in work to just kind of upgrade it, get those rooms in there, and make it into a PadSplit. But their annual rental income jumped from $24,000 for the year to around $72,000. That's a massive jump in gross rent. Obviously, there's a couple extra expenses with PadSplit, but I want to kind of break those down so you can see really what the profit is at the end of the year. So with utilities, compared to a long-term rental where the tenant is usually paying those, and in this case, you as the host are paying these, Around 5,000 or so for the year is probably spot on, depending on how many people are in the home. PadSplit's fee. So our fee for our services is 12% of rent collected. And then Stripe, the credit card processor that takes the payment, they take 2.75. So when you run your numbers, I would just round that up to 15% off of the gross rent there. Maintenance, so this is gonna go up a little bit. You're gonna get more frequent calls. There's more people in the home. This is actually, I kind of find this to be a good thing too, just because things don't compound as easily. You know, it's more of a temporary solution. People will be quicker to kind of call the property manager and let them know that something's wrong, which is great. And then in this other category, we accounted for any vacancy, any bad debt. So in the case that somebody got out without paying, you know, any of your property taxes, insurance, etc. So that kind of just lives in that little bucket right there. So these total expenses went up from around $7,700 to around $30,000, a huge jump in expenses. But his total profit at the end of the year went up, I mean, almost triple. He almost quadrupled it. Am I doing my math right?
Almost triple.
Almost triple. But $42,000 in actual cash flow at the end of the year, which on that same property is just a no-brainer. So when you're looking at, you know, your buyers or you know, any of your clients that have the power to invest in something like this, just think about like if they did this on a scale, because most investors are really, you know, they're trying to do volume of this. They're doing this math here and saying, okay, if I can multiply this by 5 or 10 properties, then I'm set. I can retire. So from you guys, from your standpoint as, you know, the partners or the investors, there's a lot of money to be made in, you know, whatever kind of niche business that you guys are in. All right, so a couple of stats just for the Tampa specific area. Like I said, we just hit 500 rooms here. This is kind of like a heat map of the Tampa metro area, but when I do say Tampa, it's like 25-mile radius of the whole area. So it kind of goes up to, you know, Clearwater, Newport Richey, out to Lakeland, down to Sarasota. So it's kind of this whole huge area here. Overall, we've got an occupancy rate of 93%. Like I said, the average member tenure is about 8 months or so. And the average weekly rate here is about 200 to 205. It's kind of been bouncing around that for a while. So definitely some really high rates here, and there's still some really good inventory, so it's a really great kind of opportunity to flip those around. And one thing that I really like to kind of highlight on, you know, like the properties that you're looking for, I guess, and this is what I think the real beauty of PadSplit is from an investor standpoint, is that, you know, if you wanted to make cash flow similar to this, you have to buy, you know, a multifamily property or, you know, a nicer home in a really nice area for Airbnb. Whereas with PadSplit, you're looking in the areas that need it. So, you know, the C-class neighborhoods or these working class neighborhoods where you're going to find cheaper purchase prices, and you can still flip that around and make those kind of returns. So it's just kind of opening your buy box to, you know, more options for buying power. And I want to show you guys a couple case studies. Chris, I wish I could figure out how to get your video of your house up on here, but these are just a couple different hosts that are at different kind of scales. So this is a host that just has one property. He's actually out of state, so this is another thing as well. If you guys have anybody or you yourselves are typically out of state, there's other options, and we kind of have a vendor network built out of every person that you would need throughout this. So if you need a lender or an agent or a contractor that knows PadSplit, knows what they're doing, we've got a whole vendor network built out of that. But this host just has one property. He's really only been here once, and he was able to quadruple what he would have done. So he's doing really well here. Around $8,000 a month is pretty spot on for him. Now this is a host that has about 35 PadSplits. These were conversions. He kind of saw the opportunity there, like I was talking about, kind of just like did the math on that one and was like, I can multiply this across all of them. And so now he is generating about 130, 140 a month in income there. Very crazy. All right, so for how you guys can get involved, there's a couple different options here. So you yourselves, I know that some of you guys are investors and owners. You can either, work with me to kind of look for something to buy. We can look at existing portfolios and see which of your properties make sense to convert. You can refer people as well. So if you're sitting here saying sounds great, but not for me, but you know somebody else, we have a $1,000 referral bonus. So if you send anybody over and they become a host. And you can also partner with us. So joining our vendor network might be really useful. If you're looking for some more volume in your business, whatever it may be, you can always join our vendor network, and people that are out of state that don't have any support here, they can reach out to you and look to you guys for help to be boots on the ground here for PadSplit. So several different ways that you guys can get involved, and I believe